When Aegon V Targaryen and his kin perished in the flames of Summerhall, the Iron Throne passed to a man born of sorrow and shaped by duty. Jaehaerys II Targaryen was crowned in the ashes of his father's dream, a dream of dragons, rebirth and renewal that had turned to cinders and screams. The castle of Summerhall smouldered still when his coronation bells tolled, their chime echoing through halls half empty from the fire. The tragedy had burned away more than blood. It had destroyed faith. The small folk who once sang of Egg the Unlikely now whispered that the Targaryens had angered the gods. Even the court of King's Landing felt hollow. Courtiers spoke in hushed tones, as if afraid to disturb the ghosts of those lost. Jaehaerys himself moved like a man walking through a dream, frail in body, hesitant in voice, but resolute in spirit. He had not been raised to rule, he had been raised to serve. Yet in a single night, duty had found him. When asked what kind of king he would be, he answered quietly, "One who remembers." And for the rest of his brief reign, that promise and the weight of the ashes behind it would guide him. Jaehaerys II was a gentle soul in a brutal world. Sickly from birth, plagued by fevers and weakness, he lacked the vigor of his forebears, but possessed a sharp mind and a deeper compassion than most kings could afford. He surrounded himself with scholars, healers, and wise men, rather than warriors and flatterers. Yet his reign began with chaos pressing from all sides. Famine in the riverlands, unrest in the stormlands, and whispers of rebellion beyond the narrow sea. He inherited a court fractured by guilt and exhaustion. The tragedy of Summerhall had not only killed a king, but erased faith in the Targaryen line. Nobles muttered that the blood of dragons had gone thin. The small folk prayed for peace, but doubted the gods would listen. Jaehaerys answered neither with fire nor thunder, but with humility. He reopened the septs his father had neglected, rebuilt orphanages, and sent food and healers into the plague-scarred countryside. For a time, the quiet king's gentleness soothed the realm. But peace never lasts long in Westeros, and across the sea, an old shadow stirred. From the free cities came news of a coalition of exiles, pirates, and sellswords, led by 9 ambitious men who called themselves kings. Among them was a name Westeros had long feared to hear again, Maelys Blackfyre, the last of the line that had defied the Iron Throne for nearly a century. It was said he bore 2 heads, one grown beside the other, twisted and cruel, as if the curse of his father's rebellion had taken shape in flesh. The War of the Ninepenny Kings had begun. The Ninepenny Kings rose in the east like a storm. Their alliance, mercenary captains, exiled lords and pirate princes, set their sights on Westeros, promising to crown Maelys Blackfyre as king and divide the realm among themselves. The armies of the Golden Company, forged generations before by bitter steel in exile, marched once more under the banner of the Black Dragon. Jaehaerys, frail but unyielding, called the lords of Westeros to arms. For the first time in living memory, every great house answered. From the Reach rode Lord Ormond Tyrell. From the Westerlands, his young cousin and protege, Tywin Lannister. From the Vale came Brynden Tully, and from Storm's End, Steffon Baratheon. But among all those names, one would shine brightest. A young knight of no great house, Sir Barristan Selmy, who would soon be known as the Bold. The war was fought not upon Westerosi soil, but on the Stepstones, those barren, blood-soaked isles between Dorne and Essos. The Black Dragon banners clashed with the red amid salt and smoke. The fighting was brutal, the terrain unforgiving. The Ninepenny Kings' coalition fractured under hunger and distrust, but Maelys' men fought with fanatic fury, believing this would be the war to restore their dynasty. In the final battle, Maelys Blackfyre met Barristan Selmy in single combat. The young knight slew him in sight of both armies, his sword cutting through the deformed second head that jutted from Maelys' neck. The Black Dragon fell at last, and with it, a century of rebellion ended. When word reached King's Landing, Jaehaerys ordered no celebration. "It is no victory," he said softly, "only an ending long delayed." And though the Blackfyres were gone, their wars had left scars that would never truly fade. The death of Maelys marked the final extinction of the Blackfyre line. For nearly 100 years, bastards had claimed the name of dragon and torn the realm apart. Now, their bones littered the stepstones and their banner was trampled in the mud. Yet even in triumph, the Targaryens were weaker than they had ever been. The war had cost dearly in coin and blood. Thousands of small folk perished in the marches and ports that supplied the fleets. The lords returned home with glory but empty coffers, and the small council bickered over debts that could never be repaid. The peace that followed was quiet and brittle. Jaehaerys ruled as best he could, his health failing with each passing year. He relied heavily on his queen, Shaera Targaryen, who shared both his blood and his burdens. Together they sought to stabilize the dynasty through a single fateful act, the marriage of their children, Aerys and Rhaella. It was said the union was commanded by prophecy, born of dreams that haunted the king's sleep. Some claimed he was told by a woods witch that only through this marriage would the Targaryen line endure. The wedding was solemn and joyless. The bride wept, the groom scowled. But the king believed destiny had spoken, and destiny, as the Targaryens had learned too often, does not ask permission. Peace returned, but it was not the peace of strength, it was the silence before the fall. Jaehaerys withdrew deeper into his chambers, consumed by study of prophecy and the restoration of his family's fading power. He spoke often of the promised prince, of a coming darkness that only dragon's blood could withstand. His court humored him, as kings must be humored, but his health and mind both waned. His son Aerys, brilliant and volatile, began to show the same passions and cruelty that had once doomed Aegon IV. His daughter Rhaella, devout and sorrowful, became the quiet heart of the court. Together they represented the Targaryen extremes, fire and ash, fury and restraint, bound together by their father's faith in prophecy. The last years of Jaehaerys' life were filled with whispers. Some said he had seen the doom of his line in his dreams, others that he had tried to avert it and failed. He grew thin and hollow-eyed, haunted by visions no maester could explain. In the end, his reign ended as it had begun, in quiet sorrow. He died in his bed in the Red Keep, his final words a prayer that his children would know peace. They never would. Jaehaerys II Targaryen was remembered as the last king to unite the realm without tyranny. He had ended the Blackfire threat, restored the crown's dignity, and guided the kingdom through its final years of order. But his triumph carried a curse. In binding his bloodline to prophecy, he had sown the madness that would consume it. His reign was a candle flickering in the wind, brief, bright, and doomed. Behind him lay the ashes of Summerhall. Before him, the fires of the Mad King and the rebellion that would end his house. Between those flames stood one frail man, trying with all his strength to hold the darkness back. For a moment, he succeeded. In the next episode, witness the rise and ruin of Jaehaerys II Targaryen, whose brilliance turned to madness and whose paranoia set Westeros ablaze. From the heights of royal splendor to the fires of Robert's rebellion, this is the story of the last Targaryen to sit the Iron Throne, and the beginning of the end for House Targaryen. The dragon's roar will become its death cry.